one of the little known secrets to massive wealth and real financial freedom is to really be aware of and find solutions to the problems you are in the middle of right now. So if I'm being a little mysterious, that's on purpose today because my longtime friend Peter Cutforth is coming on to share something that I find really fascinating about how he's built his online empire in Australia, finding solutions to problems that we're struggling with right now. My name is Melanie Benson. I'm known as America's leading small business optimizer, and I like to help you find the 1 to 2% that's going to propel you into massive success and exponential profits. We call it optimizing, and there's no shortage of ways that you can make your business perform better when you them. And today I want to bring on, like I said, a very special friend and actually a former client of mine, somebody who I had the privilege of getting to know when I was doing some business in Australia, Mr. Peter Cutforth of Brisbane, Australia. And Peter is what he calls a digital marketing entrepreneur and an online lead generation consultant. And he's several huge, wildly successful online ventures, and you can find him at businessclicks.com.au. And Peter, thank you so much for joining us very early in the morning on a Saturday there on the other side of the world.
Good morning, Mel. It's a pleasure and privilege to be with you. So, good afternoon to you.
You know, it's fun when I get to talk with people in other countries because not only is there just a whole nother realm of possibility and opportunity, I think that's emerging and popping in different pockets all over the planet, but we're always on different time zones. You know, the other day I
Yeah,
was doing one in England and it was his day in the beginning of mine, so it's just kind of fun.
awesome.
So, Peter, let's talk a little bit about you as a digital marketing expert and what that means. Because in my experience with you, you've had several really successful ventures, and I'm sure a few that maybe didn't go as well as you wanted, which is par for the course. But, you know, I would consider you somewhat of a serial entrepreneur, and I'm kind of curious how you got involved in this line of work.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Mel, and thank you for that. My background was as a senior executive in the health and aged care industry, of all things. I was originally a radiographer. And so I've reinvented my career many times, I guess, and ended up in this wonderful place of being an entrepreneur and having, several businesses that create a very comfortable lifestyle for me. So, um, why the online marketing space, I guess, and how did I get involved with that? I guess it just evolved over time. I started to study, even as an executive, I started to study direct response marketing from some of the greats like Dan Kennedy and people like that that we all know and follow. And of course, we have our own, I guess, specialists and leaders in that field in Australia. And I just got fascinated by that uh, mode of marketing and doing business. And I guess it all evolved from there, going back to probably 2002 or three or four. I went to an internet marketing seminar and it all kind of went from there, I guess.
As the
Yeah.
beginning of us at some kind of a conference, yeah.
And I think you mentioned probably a few not so successful things as well as the successful ones. I would probably argue the majority not successful, and then the ones that we like to talk about, of course, are the successful ones.
Yeah,
But
we'll just focus on those, right?
totally, yeah, 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 that's right. So yeah, I've been training for my overnight success for the last 20 years.
I love that. Training for my overnight success. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I think you have had some pretty big successes, and I know, you know, when we were working together, you know, you would move into these jackpots and something would just take off. And then, you know, there were other things you'd refine and work on, and they were more heart-based. And I think that's par for the course for a lot of us. You know, we do these heart-based things, and then we just, you know, lock onto this thing that just takes off. And we're going to talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit in a minute because I think really knowing what to pursue and what to let go of is one of the biggest challenges every entrepreneur faces. And I know you've got some wisdom in that. But before we do that, Let's talk a little bit about an angle of online marketing that's emerging, and I know you happen to have some expertise in this area. And I think this is an area that a lot of people need to pay attention to, and it's the reputation that is evolving for a business owner or a business brand online. And you've got some
Exactly.
insight
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah, and look, I think Mel, one of the things that you used to encourage me with was to sort of stand back and look at the bigger picture, right,
Hmm.
in terms of your business, and then chop that down into how you're going to, leverage that and systematize it and so on. And one of the things that I think is really important for all business owners today, but particularly local business, even just standard bricks and mortar service businesses, products and so on, is to do exactly that, is to stand back and look at what's happening. And I'm sure, you could cite examples in the States. I certainly could here in Australia where big national brands have actually missed the boat with online marketing, for instance, with having a decent online presence, and they've just completely missed it, and it's cost them, probably billions as a result. And so it's important that when we're working away on the business and in the business, that from time to time we stand back and kind of helicopter out and look at that 5,000 foot view or whatever it is, and say, okay, what's going on here? What do I need to think about? What's coming down the pike that I might have missed? And so, with that as a kind of foundation, one of the things that's happening right now for business owners in that very regard, and the vast majority of them don't even realize it, is that the whole buying process, if you like, the buying criteria of your average prospect and potential customer client has changed
Hmm.
just in the last 5 or maybe 5 years because of what is going on online. And so now, and I'm not talking here about online businesses or even coaches and that sort of, work from home people like that. I'm not talking about just those people. It certainly applies to those as well. But this is any kind of business pretty well. What happens is that people might go online to Google or hear about something on Facebook, a recommendation. What do they do then typically before they go and transact with that business? They go and search for a review
Yep.
online. And this is, and you can actually prove it by searching in Google. Google has a little thing called Google Insights. So, for instance, if you go and search for, vegetarian cafe in your area, it'll probably bring up several suggestions, right? And often, if you search a brand or even a sort of reasonably well-known restaurant in your area, you'll see if you type in that brand, it'll bring up reviews as a suggestion. Right? So how profound is that? Think about that for a moment for your business. Are people actually searching for your business name, your location, and then reviews after that? And if they are, you've got, and you're not geared up to deal with that. That should be a big wake up call to you, because the principle is called research online, purchase offline, ROPO for short. And it basically means that people are doing lots of research online before they even come into the sort of inner circle of your business as a prospect.
Well, I
Big
tell
game
you, it's
changer, Mel.
yeah, it's fascinating for on multiple dimensions. First of all, for an information marketer like myself, there's no shortage of people who are very eager to share their experiences in social media and on their
Mm,
blogs and online. And, there's several very well known marketers who have a flurry of both positive and negative things written about them. But then if you take this to a much larger scale and you look at brick and mortar businesses and people who they're building their business based on referrals and
yeah,
the popularity of Yelp, when you
yeah.
travel, like I use, I think it's travel, one of those travel,
TripAdvisor.
TripAdvisor. Yes, as a matter of fact, I
Yeah.
just planned a whole trip for
Mm,
a week. Every place I went was based on Yelp and
yep.
TripAdvisor, and
Exactly.
we did steer
Exactly.
clear of they got negative.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think this is a huge monster to tame
Mm,
for a lot of
mm,
people, and I know it's very confusing when things do get written about you. What do you do with them, and how do
yeah.
you handle, maybe a less than positive review.
Exactly. And then conversely, which is that's a whole area of reputation management, I suppose. But
Hmm.
then there's a whole nother exciting dimension to that as well, Mel, where you've got taking an existing five-star reputation and proactively marketing that out.
Yeah.
So you put it in front of your prospects, and I know I don't think we can put a screen up, something to show on the screen, but if anyone's interested, if you were to go to my client's website, and this is in Australia, so it's not a pitch for anything, but the website would be Rains Forest Massage, spelled Raines, rainsforestmassage.com. And if you go there and scroll down on her homepage, you're going to see, I think at last count, it was something like 45 different reviews that our system aggregates on her homepage from the Yelps, well, probably not TripAdvisor in her space, but the relevant review portals, importantly, including Google Plus, because Google Plus is a really big one, which I can talk about in a minute if you'd like me to, Mel. But it aggregates those complete with the little logo showing that it's a valid review from, those places. Now, think about the social proof. If you go to that website from Google, she's ranked number one in Google for Massage Brisbane, which is the biggest search relevant term for her business. So she's getting a lot of cold visitors. And when they look on her homepage, they're seeing you have to keep scrolling down. It's just massive social proof. So she's taking her or it's a 4.6 star reputation aggregated in Google, which we took from, actually, she'd had a couple of just random negative legacy reviews from years back. And so we kind of built that up for her. And now it's just this amazing barrage of social proof, if you like, on her website. And so when you take that, also leverage it through social media like Facebook, Twitter, images on LinkedIn, and images on Pinterest, and those more image-based platforms as well, and video we're even getting into now, where we're taking reviews and turning them into professional studio quality videos. It's really exciting because you're just going to make that buying process just so much more slippery, Mel, straight into your funnel.
I
I can
love
put
where
it
we're
that way.
going with this because, old school, for those of us that, maybe don't have brick and mortar businesses, we're more service based business, and, we do a very large amount of our marketing online. Old school is get a customer's testimonial, spotlight them on our website. What you're doing is you're giving us, like, it's almost like you're giving us this spark of possibility of how to take social proof and endorsements to a whole nother level
Third
in the
part.
traditional market. So,
Yeah.
you know, let's take that idea and just build on it for a second. Like, if you could leave us with one tip today or an idea of how someone who's maybe a service based business owner could tap into this new way of leveraging online brand building, if you will, what's one thing we could do?
Yeah, look, the most important thing, Mel, I suppose, apart from having the awareness that you've
Sure.
actually, this is part of, it's a primary now part of your marketing approach. Because if people Google, see, this is what's happening, Mel, particularly for local businesses. If you take a chiropractor, for instance, so someone's going to search in Google, and make no mistake, people are still searching in Google.
Oh
So,
yeah, I search in
you
Google all the
know,
time.
oh yeah, yeah. So look, all the stuff about social media is going to replace Google. Well, I don't know if I buy that. Certainly not in the short term. So if people will go for, chiropractor geolocation. So what's your location
Oh, let's say
exactly
here in
there?
Los
So
Angeles.
So yeah. So chiropractor Los Angeles, or within what do you call them over there? We call them suburbs here, counties,
City,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. So here in Brisbane, I might search chiropractor Brisbane, or even in my suburb. What's going to come up is the Google Places. It is going to list seven businesses in from one to seven, in those results, and you're going to probably choose from one of those businesses. Now, what Google's also doing now is they're displaying the Google Plus rating, reputation rating, in those results. Okay, so first of all, you've got to be in those results, which is another discussion. But assuming you're in those results, then you want to have your business showing up with as high as possible reputation and with as many reviews as possible, because what's going to happen is the visitors' eyes are going to be drawn to the stars. The business with the most reputation will get the most calls. It's as simple as that. It doesn't really matter, in one sense, whether they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 or 7 in those listings. Does that make sense? Whereas
Totally.
traditionally, it used to be with SEO, it used to be whoever's up the top would get most calls, and that's the reality. And there's still obviously a reality to that, but particularly within Google Places, which comes up almost all the time when there's a geographic modifier, yeah, to the search term. So if you're putting Brisbane or Los Angeles or whatever in there. So then the other thing that happens is that even once a purchase prospect has found your business, they might then do another search that says, they might go Success Connections review, or or Success Connections Los Angeles, and then Google's going to display you and front and center. So your website's going to come up on the left, your Google Plus listing is going to come up on the right, and right there it's going to say reviews. In fact, if you've got reviews, it will show your review rating. And so if you've got a sort of 2 or 3 star review, it's kind of like, hey everybody, nobody really likes doing business with us, so what's the visitor going to do? They're gone, baby. They're gone.
Now I have to go
Simple as
Google
that.
myself and see what happens. I've never really looked at it from that perspective because everything's
Yeah.
been built around a different technique. So now I have to Google myself.
Oh,
Everybody go Google yourself and see where you're at.
yeah, exactly. And it's pretty scary, actually. I mean, I've done some interesting searches because there's a tool in Google where you can look at how many people a month are searching for any term. It's called the Google Keyword Planner. Just Google it if you want to use it, and as part of that, you have to have an AdWords account. But yeah, so like I did a search for it's just a sort of reasonably well-known local restaurant in a particular suburb, it's just a suburban restaurant here, and I think there were hundreds of people searching for their brand name, which was a completely random brand name. There's no other way that it could be confused, other than the fact that people are searching specifically for that business. And when they search that, those Google review results are going to come up right there, number one, in the number one result, because it's Google.
Well,
Think about how you do that. And obviously, my agency has a particular system where we can assist businesses that have, for whatever reason, have perhaps either got no reputation, because the statistics are, Mel, I think that people are almost as likely to trust a third-party review online as they are to trust a personal referral. Nielsen did some stats on it. And something like 75% of local business purchases are being researched online before they purchase, or before they go there. So if you're going to go to a restaurant, you might think, oh, I'll just quickly Google them and see what the reviews are. And if you've got a 3 or 4 star rating, or this is another key point, Mel, for your people, is if you've got a recent negative review sitting there. I mean, you might have 50 positive reviews, but if the last review says there was a cockroach in my dinner, you're going to be
That's not
losing
good.
sales massively.
Exactly.
So what you need to do is quickly get some positive reviews up there to push that review down. Now, unfortunately, a business can't do it, and we don't use fake reviews. I don't believe in fake reviews. I think that's a whole. You're just setting everything off on the wrong footing if you do take that approach, and it's most likely if you try and do that yourself, you're going to get hammered by Google and the review sites. You probably you just won't be able to do it. They'll remove your reviews. But we have a system where we can actually collect customer reviews into a portal on your own website, which you control. So if you do get a negative review, firstly it gets emailed straight to the business owner or decision maker so that they can take action on it. if you get positive reviews, then we can post that up on your website. We post it out to your Facebook and social media. We can make a video of it, and so that's starting to build your 5-star reputation online. It takes time.
I
Now,
love
here's
it.
the scary thing. Here's the wake-up call for business owners: is if you don't start now, imagine what this space is going to be like in 12 months' time, 24 months' time. That's only 52, 100 weekends. It's not long. And I can tell you now for sure that what you see now in the travel space is going to apply across a much broader range of businesses. If I can just leave it there. But
Yeah. You
mm,
know, I love that you said how to build your 5-star reputation online. It's a great way to look at it. And,
mm,
we could go on and on and on about all the amazing ins and outs of this. And I think bringing this to people's attention is just such a powerful part of today's show, because so many service professionals have no idea what's going
yeah.
on online. But, Peter, I want to go a little deeper. I want
Hmm.
to go behind the scenes of Peter Cutforth and the evolution and the arc of your business success. You know, I'm fascinated by serial entrepreneurs like yourself and other people who, have been in this business for a while and have found these different businesses to bring out. How do you find a business that like, I want to go for that business? Like, there's something in this that is worth me changing directions or adding another business for me to manage
Yeah.
into my life. Like, what's the trigger for you to know that's something you should go for?
And look, I probably should preface my answer, Mel, by honoring you, that you used to say to me, I think, sometimes you have to say no, and you can tell this, you can recite this advice better, but sometimes you have to say no to something to be able to say yes to something bigger.
Yeah.
What's the right way of
Everything
saying
you
that?
say no, everything you say yes to means you're saying no to something else. So be really
Okay,
clear
that's right.
about what gets your yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so I guess the problem for serial entrepreneurs is they tend to want to be doing everything. And
Yes.
you used to say to me, Peter, no, no, you can't do that. Can't focus on one thing.
Make one thing work and then move on.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. But look, I think the thing, and as I mentioned to you before we started the show, I was lying in bed this morning. I just got this thought into my head all of a sudden that I just want to share this with your peeps, and so maybe I'm hoping there's somebody out there that this is going to be meaningful for. And Mel, you might have come across this product. There was an information product going back years and years ago. I can't even remember the guy that made it, but he talked about the term called money goggles. And the money goggles idea was that you always have these money goggles on, so you look at things through that perspective of where's the money, you know. And so this is going to be, I guess, a bit of it's another truth to the fact that what a lot of what you teach about, work in the field of your passion, discover your why, all that kind of stuff, which is obviously a huge, huge truth. And as well, there's another truth which says you really need to be looking all the time at where is the money,
Hmm.
and you need to be also putting into place a proper systematic approach to say, is this going to make money? And I know you took me through some really good criteria about how do you assess an idea when it comes into your head, and not just run off like a wild horse to try and implement that. So I think that, but having said all that, I think the thing with the money goggles, which I love, is just to be allowing that, and whatever your worldview is, but whether that's God's leading, or whether it's the universe or the law of attraction, bringing to what's it bringing to you, what opportunities, and that whole reputation marketing thing I've just spoken about,
Yeah.
that all started because I'm on a particular list. In fact, I don't even know where it came from, but David Spragg, the guy that's behind all that thing, and I just happened to be, I don't know, I got to hear about it. It was on one of my lists, and it went from there. And I've taken it and I've implemented and run with it. So on the one hand, the focus, we need to have that focus, and we can't get derailed with shiny objects, and often it's good advice just to unsubscribe from a lot of stuff. But also, I guess my testimonial is that I feel that I get, just almost divine leading, like it's just fantastic. I love the way things come into my inbox at, Mel, just the right time. And I'm sure, other people have experienced that. And that's partly because I've got the money goggles on to bring it back, I suppose. It's to, I'm always looking for what's the opportunity and how can I implement that into my business to improve services to my client base, and obviously to increase revenue streams, and of course, particularly revenue streams that are either passive income, highly leveraged income, or at least regular monthly income that you don't have to go out and
Like a
generate a
residual
sale for
income.
every time. Exactly.
So here's what I'm hearing you say, and this is a brilliant way to position this optimizing technique that you're really telling us how you optimize your business is that you have the filter called what's my next passive, residual, or what was the one? Highly
Highly
leveraged
leveraged. Yeah,
cash flow opportunity. And
correct. Yeah.
so for you, you know what you do well. You optimize uh, results online for your clients, and so you're constantly looking through the lens of what's the next big way that we can monetize and maximize people's presence online. That's what I hear you saying is like you're always looking through that lens, and for you to say yes to it, you have to be able to monetize it well. You've got to be able to turn it into a
Correct.
profitable business center. So
Yep.
oh, did you want to add something else before I?
Well, I think one of in a sense, this is what people have to balance, particularly in heart-based information marketing, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
is, and I have a lot to do, and I'm married to an awesome heart-based entrepreneur, and probably the challenge though for those that work based on such a passionate why is that they have to then say, they also have to balance that with asking the question is what I'm doing right now going to contribute to my bottom line?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a challenge.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the money goggles,
Yeah.
So am I seeing the money opportunities, and am I implementing the money opportunities, and am I being brutally honest with myself, or am I letting myself get lulled into some sense of, oh, well, it could help my brand or get the name out there, all these other fluffy terms that usually just mean that you might be doing something that's comfortable, but in actual fact, what you might need to do is get on the phone and call some leads, or do some other, Facebook marketing, or whatever you need to
Right.
do that's kind of probably not really so comfortable for you. Make sense?
In my opinion, no great wealth that arrives from living in your comfort zone. I think great results come from stretching beyond that. So
Yeah.
speaking of stretching, I'm love to hear what your biggest challenge has been as a serial entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah. And look, there's so many of them, and I think look, I mean, I'd have to say that the answer that I'm sure many, if not the majority of entrepreneurs give you to that question, and that is maintaining the work-life balance. And it's a pity in a sense that that term, is so polarized like that. There's work, and then there's life, as if work wasn't part of life. Do you know what I mean? But because I think for those of us, and probably most of us listening to this call, have a passion in terms of what they're doing. So for me, I'm passionate about the leverage that it's not so much online marketing itself, all the techie stuff. It's not so much what floats my boat, but it's the leverage that you can get through various means online marketing. So it's just fascinating. So it's hard sometimes to balance that and come back. Yeah, one of the big problems with online marketing and running a business which is based online is that to work on your business, you've got your head buried in a computer
Mm.
a lot of the time. And so that can be, a very antisocial activity for your primary relationship or other relationships. And so how you, and in a way that, for instance, if you ran a cafe or something, it wouldn't probably be that, because that can be much more social and engaging, but you're
Mm-hmm.
still at work type of thing. So yeah, look, I think that's been one of the biggest challenges, and it's always an ongoing area that you just have to keep adjusting and come up with boundaries and so on that work for you, and it's obviously different for everybody. And as you know, Mel, I've had an experience where I hit the wall when I was 40. I was a senior exec, and I was doing a big townhouse development, and I was trying to run another business in the evenings, in business improvement teaching, and it was just I thought I was invincible, and I hit the wall, and it's a very, very painful, nasty, horrible thing, which led me into a whole lot of sort of depression and anxiety related issues and so on. And it's horrible, horrible, horrible experience. And you'd think, having gone through that it'd be like, well, there'd be just an absolute abhorrence of going there again, which there is. But obviously, my personality as well is just wired to be going, okay, well, let's do this. Here's another thing we could do, and so it's really, really important that we do stand back and not let that serial entrepreneur drive, I suppose, just take over our lives and consume us.
Well, there's so much side of what you just said, and I'm really glad you brought this up. And as a matter of fact, the number one thing that people on this interview series says is their biggest challenge is hiring and team management. So
No, really?
this one
Oh, there we
hasn't
go.
come up as much,
No.
but it's
Mm,
not because people don't struggle with it,
mm,
and
mm,
get so used to it being a certain way that they forget it could be better. So I'm
sure.
glad you brought it up because it's
Mm,
real, and I think the more passionate you are about the business, the harder it is
totally.
because you it's easy to get immersed in it. And
Mm,
so along these lines, I want to just tackle one other big concept, and that is that game changing moment for you. Because obviously you have been through adversity and you've faced your failures and you've had challenges, and then there's probably a turning point for you where something clicked or you learned something, or maybe it was something that just shifted inside of you that turned things around and found business. Do you know what that moment was for you?
look, it's probably a little bit hard to point to one particular moment, but
Or maybe a
um,
concept?
yeah, a concept. And perhaps if I can just share around a little story that started the online training business that I run. We run a what's called a registered training organisation, business over here in Australia, which has become one of the leading national businesses in our field. Which, surprisingly to some, might be surprising that it's our field is safety compliance, relatively, dare I say, boring niche. But anyway, we stumbled on that, I suppose, in fact, the story is interesting because my business partner and I, we were working in executive recruitment, and we went down to Sydney, and we were on the monorail in Sydney, which anyone who's been to Sydney might understand. And we were sitting opposite a guy who had a logo on his t-shirt, and it said, I think it was E3 Media or something like that. And I just said to the guy, I didn't know him, I said, so what does E3 Media do? And he said, oh, we do e-learning. And Steve and I, my business partner and I, were kind of looking at e-learning. We sort of didn't really know too much about it. And so anyway, we struck up a relationship with this guy. Turned out that he had a whole team behind him. And cut a long story short, we ended up doing a joint venture with this guy, which got us into what we currently are now, which is a registered training organisation. Previously, we were in a whole JV with this two other companies. It was a really messy thing. I did the online marketing, and we kind of made it work. But then we decided to be an RTO ourselves, and we kind of went from there. So I would say that the thing that turned things around was just that random sort of chance meeting, I suppose, which obviously was not a chance, but it's also that we were kind of open to that. The saying, Mel, money loves speed, and I think businesses these days, they've got to be fast to implement stuff. So it's better to be 80%, what's the saying, 80% out the door than 100% in the drawer or something like that. So it's that whole progress, not perfection thing. And we just ran with it. And we took that business from nothing. We started an online e-learning consultancy business, and we also started our own products. And we took that business from zero to seven figures in 9 months. Sorry, 18 months through online marketing. So it was pay per click and SEO, and that's now a multi-million dollar business with 20 staff. And it was all, in one sense, because of that chance meeting on the monorail in Sydney that got
With
us
money
started
goggles on.
with the money goggles on. Yeah, that's right.
I
So
think that's a theme for you today, Peter, is really like,
uh,
your a lot of your successes come from your attitude of
yeah,
the money and how can I leverage what I do best.
and it can be only one phone call away, Mel, or one chance meeting on a monorail or wherever. So if there's anyone listening to this that's just feeling, tired, discouraged, downhearted, can I just say to you, like I feel like I'm a really, really slow learner, even though I've had some good successes. But I learn now from many of my mentors and leaders that I follow in my niche are young enough to be my children. And so I suppose I could get discouraged about that, but actually I love that. I love the young generation, the 20 somethings today, and the 30 somethings. I'm married to an awesome one of those, and I actually love it. And so the point is that even for myself, there's so many things, Mel, that I haven't implemented correctly, that I'm still not implementing correctly, that I've been slow to, I look back and I think, oh, why didn't I see that, earlier? Like, why didn't I build a list earlier? Why didn't I do this and so on? And I know how frustrating it can be doing internet, online marketing, internet marketing, whatever kind of business you're in. But if you are discouraged and you're feeling, down and disheartened, I just encourage you to just stand back, look at that perspective again, and put the money goggles on and think, okay, something is going to be around the corner. It could be a phone call, it could be a chance meeting, there could be something that's going to come into my inbox that's going to help me get on a new path, on a different path, or a more optimized path for my current line of business, because that's what's happened for my businesses, and that's it's happened so many times. But the story I just shared with you obviously was a multi-million dollar example of that.
So the thing I'm taking out of today is speed. And I remember the Peter that I originally met in Sydney, Australia. First of all, took speedy action to book me for a day when I was going to be in Sydney, and then took what we put together in Sydney, and 5 days later had completely got his return on investment by
Yeah, that's right.
implementing. And so
Absolutely.
what I'm hearing, because I hear you saying you feel slow sometimes, but what I hear is that when it comes to smart money making activities, move with speed. And I've seen you do that over and over and over again. And that, my friend, is a real gift, is to be able to implement the right things with speed. So there you go.
And here's a quick example. I'll take 1 minute and just show you. The other day I was creating a report for a client, a free report. It's a lead magnet. Most of you would know what that is. It was a report called for tradespeople. What do you call them? Contractors over there, like
Hmm.
electricians and so on. It was called, 7 important ways to get more paid jobs from your existing website visitors and leads. And I sat down with my microphone and Audacity. You can also use a fantastic app called Auphonic, Auphonic, Auphonic. And I sat down, I just quickly mapped out on 2 pages some notes. I sat down in 20 minutes, I created an audio. I sent that audio off to some transcriptionists at speechpad.com, $1 per finished minute. Um, and they had that back to me. I'd send it off to somebody on Fiverr. And so within less than a week, I had a completely beautifully formatted 12-page report, plus an audio, which is very easy then to put into a video. So, you know, today that's a whole nother thing we could talk about, Mel. And I know you've got a whole course on
Speed to
that, but
market.
using the, outsourced
Yeah.
teams to, to go for speed to market. But there you've got a whole beautifully, and the client was like, wow, this is an awesome report, and he just didn't realize it took me less than an hour. And I charged him several $1,000s for that report, and that as part of a bigger lead funnel, which is even more, several $1,000s.
You
But
better make sure he doesn't watch
yeah.
this interview. So, Peter, let's wrap up here with, do you have a favorite mantra or quote that keeps you inspired?
So I'm going to give you one which is kind of a hybrid from me, and it's this. If anyone's writing it down, it's lead with vision and vitality, and follow with determination and discipline. And I guess that kind of, and we probably haven't talked a lot about persistence and some of them, but trust me, I think most of my close, friends and colleagues and so on would, if they said one word about Peter, it will be persistence. Because when you get kicked down and it feels painful to want to get up again, that's where you need to just keep following up with that determination and discipline. Some days you don't find that discipline there readily, and in that case, just be easy on yourself and say, okay, well, today I'm just feeling crap, so that's okay. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to find that it just starts to bubble up again and I'm getting excited again. And yeah, so it's leading and following up in your own, I'm talking about personally, I'm not, follow up yourself with that determination and discipline. So I hope that's helpful to
I
somebody
love
listening
that.
today.
I would add just one more thing, a nice bottle of wine.
Yes, that helps.
That's part of my formula.
Just one.
Well, it depends on how many people are involved. And maybe a view of the beach, right?
Absolutely.
Peter, thanks so much for coming on today. It's been such a pleasure to watch your evolution and to see you just nail these amazing opportunities and like I said, have the speed and the determination to go after them. And you're a real great advocate for the online presence of brands and service professionals like myself, and I love the work that you do. And let's remind everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so www.businessclicks.com.au. On my homepage, there is a reference there to the reputation stuff. There is a webinar on the site. I'll make sure that's easily accessible that you can listen to, that explains that whole service that we provide. And I should say that just because it's a .com.au site and I'm based in Australia, that particular service we offer obviously can be offered to clients anywhere in
Everywhere,
the
yeah.
world, and it's pretty exciting. But
Google
yeah,
is universal.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And you want to make sure you know somebody who's staying on the cutting edge of Google, that's for sure, because
well,
they love to change directions.
yeah, very frequently, don't they?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Peter, and
Mm.
thank you for listening in today. We'll be back next week with another really powerful way to optimize your business and really take your trajectory to a whole nother level. And we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Mel.